Okay, so today I got something special in store for you guys today. Red V-Raptor, Alexa Mini LF, two of the highest cameras in the industry right now, both large format, and we're gonna be putting them side by side and seeing what makes each of them unique. On this channel, I get to play around with a lot of different cameras, and from time to time, I'll take two cameras and put them up against each other in order to help creators learn the differences, small quirks, and ultimately find which tool is best for them. But in this video, we're having to take all of that up a notch. It's no surprise because you read the title and the thumbnail. We are looking at the Red V-Raptor versus the Alexa Mini LF, two titans in the cinema world. If you don't know anything about these cameras, basically we're looking at two cameras that many of your future and possibly current favorite movies were shot on. And it's time to face these two cameras off and see who is the king of cinema. Now for a video this big, you have to bring out the big gun. So I partnered up with my friend Rob Machado, who's based in Las Vegas, to pull this video off. Now a quick note about Rob is he has very little tolerance for BS. So when doing a test like this, I knew he was going to be very critical of both cameras, and with his talents as a professional DP, I knew he would be able to help me get the best out of these two cameras. Speaking of cameras, let's break down these cameras because although there are both leaders in the industry, they are vastly different cameras. First, let's break down the Red V-Raptor. The Red V-Raptor is Red's flagship cinema camera, boasting a full frame sensor they call VistaVision that shoots 8K up to 120 frames per second at 17:9 and up to 150 frames per second in a 2:4 aspect ratio. When it comes to Red, they are all about their sensors and giving creators as much flexibility with those sensors. For example, you can shoot raw, full frame in 8K, but you can also switch your project settings into 6K, which will give you a Super 35 sensor, and it also opens up higher frame rate options, such as 160 frames per second at 17:9 and 200 frames per second in 2:4. The Red VistaVision sensor sports a reported 17 stops of dynamic range, which means you will get incredibly smooth highlight roll-offs and even some of the cleanest shadows I've ever seen, making it a great low light camera. There are tons of other features to check out, but for now, let's check out the Alexa Mini LF. The Alexa Mini LF is one of ARRI's newer cinema cameras. It is built around their new large format 4.5K version of the original Alexa sensor. At 4.5K, the LF can shoot up to 60 frames per second and has 14 stops of dynamic range. Now, if you're an ARRI fanboy, you're probably already headed down to the comment section to defend these numbers with comments like, the Alexa Mini having a 4K sensor is better because blah, blah, blah. And you know what? You might actually be right, because if there's anything I've learned after 5 years of reviewing cameras, is that you can't judge a camera based off its spec sheet. So for the test, Rob found this amazing studio called Black Box Studio that would allow us to do a lot of different tests. Although we did have the studio for a full day and we did plan on using it, we also had quite a few different tests we wanted to pull off. For the first test, we wanted to stress test the dynamic range of each of these cameras. Rob invited out a friend of his, Sunshine, and she was nice enough to step in as our subject for this first test. This was all about just simply finding out how great the dynamic range was on these two cameras. So we set up a key light, rated each camera's exposure, so in order to see what type of range we would have to bring back either our shadows or our highlights. So to break down the look, we're gonna actually have to take both of these cameras and bring them into our editor, because let's face it, with YouTube's compression, it's almost gonna be impossible to see all the nuanced differences between these two shots. Now, when looking at the latitude test here, there are a few big things that stuck with me. The first being is how clean the Raptor's shadows are. Now, obviously on the ARRI side, although I did see a significant amount more noise in the underexposed shot, it held on to the color and the skin tones very well, which is something you hear a lot about when it comes to the Alexa Minis and really all ARRI cameras for that matter. Now for full clarification, we did shoot both of these cameras in their max resolution. So what this meant was for the ARRI, we shot in 4.5K in open gate, shooting in ARRI RAW. And on the Red, we shot in 8K in Red RAW with HQ selected. Now when doing comparisons like this, I try my best to eliminate as many changing variables as possible. So for this test, as well as all the other tests, we use the exact same lenses on each camera. In this case, it was the Tokina Vista Prime. It is always important to test your camera like this because where yes, it would be the best to try to get everything right in camera, this is not always a luxury we get. Knowing how much range you have in post will let you make more informed decisions on set and can help you to keep the production moving forward. Okay, so let's clear up one giant elephant in the room. I understand that these two cameras are ridiculously expensive, and for most people, they're probably overkill for a lot of your productions. That being said, I personally think that it's always a great idea to see what's on the market, so when you do get those bigger budgets and you do have a project, you can actually choose the right tools for the job. But how do you know what the right tool is? I kid you not, a few years ago, I was in Los Angeles and I met this guy who was shooting stock footage on an Alexa Mini. I asked him why he was shooting stock footage with an Alexa Mini, and he told me it is because he wanted to appeal to the Hollywood market for stock footage. He had sold thousands of dollars of stock footage that had appeared in major Hollywood films, and the crazy part is really anyone can be doing this. With today's video sponsor Wirestock, you can take all of your hard drives full of footage and upload it to their system. They then take that footage and take on the hard part of uploading it to all of the major stock platforms such as Shutterstock, Pond5, Adobe, and many others. The best part is it's all free. All it takes is a little bit of your time and the footage is up and working for you. Wirestock keeps a small percentage of each sale, which means they only make money if you make money. If you're shooting videos, it doesn't make sense to just let your footage sit dormant on a hard drive when it could be making money for you. Be sure to use the link in the description and create your free account today. Now, where the first test was informative, it was time to put these cameras in an actual production scenario. No more trying to overexpose or underexpose. Let's just try to get the best images out of these cameras. For the second half of the day, we had some crazy talented musicians come in and we created a few different creative looks. The purpose of this was to see what it was like to actually operate these two cameras. We started by moving our setup to another area in the studio where they had this really cool light featured wall. For lighting our talent, we rigged an overhead key as well as used an ARRI Sky panel and an Aperture Nova 600 together in order to give our talent a wrap. If you want me to do more of a full breakdown on these sets, definitely let me know in the comments down below. But for the sake of keeping this video under 30 minutes, I'm gonna go ahead and move forward. To get a fair comparison of each of these cameras, we decided to shoot them on sticks as well as operating them. As a Red Raptor owner myself, I wanted to go into this test with as much of an open mind as possible. As you guys probably know, when you buy your, so-called dream camera, and then another camera comes along, it's really hard to try not to justify why your camera is the best. I didn't want to do this, so when it came to shooting these comparisons, I tried to stay as neutral as possible and really let Rob direct most of the action and lighting. Looking at these shots here, from each camera, they honestly don't look too different. I did notice that in the shot here, how there was a fairly drastic change in how the cameras rendered these colors. However, they both have plenty of color data. So this meant that I was able to actually quickly just change this here in post and match them. Now with some of these setups, we did try to lean into a more moody lighting situation, which honestly I think actually allowed the red to shine a little bit more. Although I have made a fair amount of videos on the Raptor, I've never truly pushed my Red V-Raptor in a low light situation, and testing it in this situation in particular really let me see what this camera could do. Looking at the two cameras side by side, it's clear to me that the Red is just better in low light, but that doesn't mean that the Mini LF is a pushover. I mean, let's face it, they shot the entire movie The Batman, which was like shot in the dark, and the Mini LF was able to manage that without any problems. Obviously, the image is a major part of testing the cameras, but when you have a camera as important as these two, the functionality of the camera is equally as important. When it comes to the Red Raptor, it sports an RF mount, which personally I find to be one of the most versatile lens mounts you can put on a camera. For example, I mentioned we were using the Tokina Vista Primes, which had a PL mount on them. We were also using the Kata zoom lenses, which also had PL. Well, with the Red, I just needed to pick up a wooden camera PL to RF adapter, and just like that, I was able to adapt cinema lenses directly to the camera. But because it has the RF mount, I can also use the Canon's amazing RF lenses if you want to try to keep your entire setup a little bit more slimmed down. Now, that being said, the LF does have a few features that I really wish the Raptor had, one of which being built-in NDs. Now, Red has announced that there will be a Raptor XL that will have built-in NDs, but as of the time of recording this video, it technically hasn't been officially released. When I told people I was going to be testing out these two cameras side by side, some things kept coming up. One of the big ones being that the Alexa had a look, a low contrast, beautiful skin toned look, which honestly I can say I could see. That being said, the Red V-Raptor actually has a really unique feature that I don't hear many people talking about a lot. With most cameras, you have a certain look that you get. Now, you don't get very much control over this look either. It's just you either like it or you don't. However, with the Raptor, you have two settings that you can change that will impact your look. First of it being the ability to change your tone mapping. This allows you to adjust the contrast that's actually being written to your file. You also have an option that allows you to control your highlight roll-off amount. I've heard that the Red has a look, and this is just a very high contrast look, but truth be told, you really do have a lot of control in camera in order to get the look that you want most, but also more importantly, get the look that's best for your story. After looking at the footage and as a Red Raptor owner, I have to say the Alexa does create an amazing image, obviously, right? But what I like about the Raptor is that where it also gives me a great 8K image, there's just a bit more flexibility within the camera. It feels like the Mini LF was actually designed to do one job, and it does that job really, really well. However, the Raptor seems to not only be a jack of all trades, but it's actually a master of those trades. Now, obviously I need to spend a little bit more time with the LF in order to actually, understand all of its features and its quirks. But as of right now, I'm very happy with my Raptor purchase. I don't see myself selling my Red anytime soon. Plus, the Alexa is literally so expensive that if you pull it up here on B&H, they won't even show you the price. At the end of the day, each of these cameras are simply amazing, and getting the chance to hang out with awesome people and test out awesome cameras is really just a blessing. Now, obviously my opinions are just my own, but feel free to sound off in the comments whether you agree or disagree with my findings. Just please share why, so we can all learn, myself included. I want to give a huge thanks for Rob for helping me out with this video and bringing out his Alexa Mini LF. Thank you guys so much for checking out this video. Be sure to check out his channel, subscribe to mine if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace. You know, it'd be funny if we just shot a music video real quick.
They just talk, they just cap, they don't lead it, they just sleep. All my dogs in the back, 100 deep, they look Greek. When you look around, my brother, don't you know it's all on we